believe the sheriff and Mr. Campbell are absent. We do have a quorum. Notice this meeting was posted 3 weeks prior to this date. Do not have any guests or delegations. Thanks, Mr. Smith, for being with us. At this time, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Make a motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, that brings us down to the minutes. These minutes were emailed out about a week ago for us to review.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion and second. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, brings us to the financial statement. Right.
Yes, operating account still running lower than what we want to. We do anticipate that to balance back out since we stopped making that additional payment on the mortgage. That should start slowly, incrementally getting us back above our 200 threshold that we wanted to keep as our floor. Radio system account balance, you see, is nearly 900,000, and we've got another check to go into it, so we will have plenty of funds to make our payment, our big lump sum payment that we intend to make to Motorola. That will be an agenda item next month. So the radio system account looks really happy at the moment, and then we're gonna dump most of it back out in about 6 weeks. As far as everything else goes, revenue-wise, Hayden and I guess Hayden's the one that Cleveland and Hayden went ahead and paid their full year worth of dispatch fees.
Have you spoken with the mayor at Sneed about their, are they current?
Yes.
Okay, all right. The reason I say that is that
They're paying quarterly now. So
okay, they did have some administration changes up there, and he reached out to me and asked me to make sure that if we could send them an invoice as a reminder. Okay, all right, yeah, he did.
But they're gonna do theirs quarterly instead of monthly.
All right.
That's all I had on the written. Salary wages is still, and it's gonna continue to be our big hit point. One out on sick leave, doing paternity stuff, so we had to backfill all those positions, and still short on some night shifts, so we're eating up a lot of overtime. So we're running closer on our budgeted amount than what I want to be, but we were within that, so that's a good thing. I don't think there's anything else that I had marked that I was gonna really point out there. Everything else is just routine monthly expenditures for the most part. Any questions on any of those?
How did the health insurance, did you get that worked out?
That's
That's,
a project for next month.
okay,
We will do a long conversation of health insurance increases and potentials for cost of living
okay.
and stuff like that on next month. We still have not gotten an official letter from Blue Cross, well, from the local government insurance board. We have heard rumors that 5.9 is the increase, and that's listed on the website, but they normally send out like a real letter detailing that, so.
Usually in October, ain't it?
Yeah, and
It usually is.
I don't think we received ours.
I know we
Heidi
didn't
went
say
hunting
that.
for it and found
We-
some mentions of 5.9 on the website, but they've not published anything that they've sent.
Okay.
So that'll be an agenda item next month, and we'll do a long detailed discussion on that. It's good.
All right.
Any other questions on financial stuff?
So on the payroll tax expense, you're forecasted to go over budget on it a little bit.
Correct. The payroll tax and the health insurance is a very odd ebb and flow
Yeah,
of how they do their billing cycles.
Really hard to nail down a
Yes,
solid number,
yes.
I know.
It's difficult to get exactly what's gonna be the happy medium. So we just have to shoot at a ballpark and hope that they all fall in. It may be plus or minus a few thousand at the end.
Yeah. I understand that.
It would be much easier for us if they would calculate it to something that they can come at a flat billing amount.
Any other questions on the financial? Entertain a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, that brings us down to staff reports on the Southern Software Conference.
Since, okay, well, I almost jumped to number two, I'll go with number one first. Southern Software Conference, as always, was a great educational experience. Myself and Chris, that does our tech stuff, went. 2.5 days worth of CAD and their software training. It's a really good experience to get to go and not only meet and greet with the people that we email and talk to all year long, but actually have their presentations and training of how the back end of our softwares work. There's a lot of functionality that I want to see if I can improve. We're already doing a CAD to CAD share with St. Clair, so when we have a transfer to or from us in St. Clair County, we can actually send that call directly from our CAD to their CAD. There's 2 or 3 other Southern Software vendors that we're in borders with that I want to explore doing that with at some time, once we get a little further down the road and get some time around doing radio stuff. But Southern's an awesome company. I hope we can keep doing business with them for a long time. But if anybody has any interest in Southern products, they are doing a 1-day training in Montgomery in March. So I would love for any of our partners that want to go get a formal training on MDIS, or if you've got any interest in using their RMS package or anything else. I know Leeds and the Sheriff's Department are already on their RMS package, which makes pushing and pulling reports from CAD to RMS very, very seamless. So there's a lot of functionality there we can pick up. But that'll be the 3rd week of March is when they're doing their Montgomery training. Other things, just give you an update on our staffing. Since we got more shorthanded than we have been, we've not been full staffed in almost 2 years, but we've been on the edge of it with trainees in the pipes coming. August, we hit kind of a critical point, and it got pretty slim for a few weeks. We hired 8 since August. 5 of those 8 have been able to stick out and seem like they're gonna work out and progress through. 3 of the 5 have completed their call taker training and are functioning as call taker positions, and will begin working radio positions. And 2 of those 3 are going into full-time night spots. So we are slowly but surely getting balanced back out to a full level, correct staffing level. Just for reminders, full staffing would be 4 sets of 4, so 16 in the 12-hour rotations, and 3 flex positions. So 19 dispatch full-time positions would be what I consider full. Any questions on staffing stuff?
I've got a question, but I've got a question for a question.
Okay.
There was an item that was brought up at the last meeting that I was absent from that I'm interested in, on a employee termination. Does that need to be done outside the meeting, or? I just have a question about what went on.
Was it the disciplinary action?
Evidently, yes.
Okay.
We talked about most of that in executive.
Yeah,
so
we'll have to,
meeting.
actually, we'll let Neil
You weren't here, okay.
bring you up to date on that. All right, that takes us down to old business. P25 status.
Ever so slowly, we are getting there. We have an install date for our radio consoles, Monday week, the 29th, is the week that we have blocked off to begin installs of the actual radio console equipment. That will get one of my biggest worries in all of our facilities and equipment off of the board. The 20-plus-year-old Zetron radio stuff is, at any point, as all the electronics do, can decide to croak on us. So this will get us, as far as inside the building, almost completely on the new systems. Had an electrician come yesterday and look. We've got a small little electrical project that's gotta be done. Hopefully he's gonna call me back, or I'm gonna go track him down at lunch and say, okay, are you gonna be able to do this? Cause it's got, that electrical project has got to be done by that Monday, or we're gonna hit a stall point and not be able to go further. All of the agreements that we, did on our invitation to bid, that has all been signed, and I'm just awaiting a timeline and dates from Allcom, MCA to get that work done. That is gonna be a different crew than what is doing our radio stuff install. So theoretically, they should be able to do two things at once. So we're hoping that we'll be getting Palisades and Nectar done in the month of December, early January. I'm pushing them as quickly as I can for us to at least be in a testing environment with the new radio system by March. That's what we're pushing for. I had a little bit of a fit at our meeting with our project manager and engineer. We met last Thursday afternoon and tried not to let my temper show, but it was very difficult not to. That we're still having conversations in some of these meetings that I feel we should have had about 9 months ago. And I think my comment was, we signed this, at that point it was 6 weeks until being a year since we signed a contract, and they hadn't even supplied so much as a coffee cup for us yet. We don't have anything that says Motorola on it yet in a year.
I've got 15 emails from Motorola that are useless.
It's been very frustrating. Is trying to get the ball rolling.
What-
We've swapped project managers 3 times, and we swapped engineers 4 times. So every time we swap, there's a little bit of a, let's go back and rethink this and do it my way now.
How does that affect our contract when they have an internal thing like that? I mean, they keep dragging this on, or do we have any recourse as far as,
Well, sure we do.
I mean, right now, there's,
Time's of the essence.
absolutely, I mean, when we sign this contract, if it's dragging on this far, if they keep pushing us back on an internal thing,
pushing them for testing in March and getting regular security in March.
Okay, will there be any, orientation for the new users, or will there be any space that's different for these young ones that we didn't have for other stores?
We will probably have somebody from Motorola, NCA, come to the February and March, dedication. And we'll do something like that in March as well. So we'll have usually the same process.
So we're shooting for March, April timeframe to actually in the field start using.
That's the time frame that I would like to have back up. All right, any other questions?
Had to make that note, so I
Okay.
didn't, I'll get that email sent. Wilson that had done our tower climb when we had our lightning there. We had inadvertently, invoiced the guy, and we had overpaid him, so we had a balance. Radios, and we didn't have to pay a check to do that. We got that site back online for $300. Notified so that they can start using it again. That just gives that gives them some handheld coverage that they did not have in the valley, way down through there.
All right.
The device says it has audio, so I don't know why the video's not working. I got that text also, but I mean, it's metering audio on the device.
All right, that brings us to new business. Update on the forestry and National Weather Service tower leases.
As we discussed last month, 150 and 250 for the requested lease per month on those. I have sent those draft leases to both entities and have received no reply yet. I received an initial reply that yes, this was the correct email address, and then when I sent a lease that had a price tag on it, they went silent. So if I have not gotten something by the end of this week, I'm going to chase that rabbit a little further. My feel is that both entities are going to be very hesitant to pay for something that they've never paid for, but I don't feel that's our problem either. If you want to eat our electricity and live on our tower, you need to be paying something for it. At least in my opinion.
Was that how much a year, or was it a month?
We did $150 a month for the forestry and $250 for weather service. One is a state agency, one is a federal agency. Both of those have bigger bank accounts than we do, so this should not be a big problem.
Will it hurt us if either one of them choose to not do it? They say, if they try, we're not doing it.
telecommunications charging them, or are they paying a
I,
bill?
I would assume so, but I do not know that for a fact.
I'd like to know that, because I mean, if we're the only ones that are charging them to come in and provide a service, then I wouldn't want, I don't think I'd want that.
We can follow up with that. We'll follow up with that.
So that's in the works, and they both got those drafts, just waiting on them to decide what they wanna do with them, and I'll let you know once I get them.
All right. Telecommunication reclassification.
One of the big conversations at the state union conference a few weeks ago was the national push to reclassify our telecommunicators into the public safety field. Currently, according to the federal government, they are classified as basic clerical workers, basically. Office and administrative support is what they fit in on the federal level. This is a several-page booklet from State 911 Board about reclassification, if anybody's interested. It's the only one I've got, but I can make some copies if anybody wants it. So, about 5 years ago, there was a push to do a reclassification at the federal level, and that push kind of stalled in Washington, as things typically do. According to whatever the office in Washington is that does that, I went blank on
The labor?
Bureau of Labor Statistics, Standard Occupational Classifications. I finally found it over here. They said that they did not have enough common language in telecommunicator job descriptions across the nation to adequately support that request. So the push now is going to be from the local level back up for us to get our job descriptions commensurate with what fits in public safety and declare from our end that our employees are doing a public safety function. So this is a letter from the board, as a resolution recognizing that we do consider the folks that work in that room part of the public safety system. It doesn't cost us anything, it is just a resolution and support that we do believe that that is where they should fit in the hierarchy of things. The state is asking all of the districts to do this, and then the state is going to, State 911 Board is gonna take all of our resolutions along with AAND, the Alabama 911, Alabama Association 911 Districts, and try to push legislation at the state level to do the same thing. 5 states have already done it. 10 or 12 states are in the process. So hopefully, the next time this comes around in the federal level, we've got job descriptions, resolutions, state resolutions to support that happening at the federal level, which will eventually open us up as being a public safety entity altogether for some grant opportunities. It was about a 15-minute talk that I just tried to squeeze into 2.
So where's the argument at?
From the federal level,
They don't want to be classified as first responders?
at the federal level, they don't want to classify them as first responders because their opinion of the job description, we don't actually respond physically in the nature of respond to anything.
Right.
Well, does anybody in that take into account that they're dealing with altered mental status, and that individual could be a public safety hazard, and/or talking somebody through CPR that not be public safety? I mean,
They are looking at a black and white opinion of what they think the job is. They have no idea what the job is. And that's what they passed back down is they need a better definition of the job of public safety telecommunicator.
They essentially think they're just, call takers.
Yeah.
Correct.
Sitting at a
So
desk doing clerical.
At this point, this is part of a multi-system thing that we've got going on. On a completely another level, we are trying to do a statewide standard, similar to what APOST is. That way, a telecommunicator in Blount County, Baldwin County, DeKalb County, or Lawrence County are all on the same, at least basic,
Training levels.
yes.
Minimum
So
standard.
there will be a minimum standard firefighter, police officer, and public safety telecommunicator. So all of all of this is going into that same long-term goal of getting some minimal education, minimum standards, kind of things done. So, this is a draft that was done by, my friend Brandon Wallace up at Athens Limestone. I basically just did a find and replace on his resolution and made it into ours.
So if this is passed and then passed at the state level, does it give the dispatchers, availability to something else, some other level of PTSD?
Not yet, but that is the steps we are moving towards.
Let me ask you this, does that standardization or that baseline, would that obligate the jurisdictions across the board?
To a training level, yes. Which that training level that I've seen is actually underneath what we're currently doing.
Well, not only that, but what about salaries? I mean, I guess that's what I'm looking at. If we do this, if we sign this, basically what we're saying is, okay, we're gonna come up to whatever Hoover's paying.
No.
Or, you know, I guess that's
Yeah,
where I'm going with, you know,
maybe
Because
maybe
I know
somewhere
there-
8 or 10 years down the road, there is something along those lines, but at this point, I don't see that because.
It don't work that way in A-post.
Yeah, it don't work that way.
I just wanna, yeah, I'm with you there.
Yeah, I don't see there being any kind of a standard salary or anything attached to this.
But the training level, we should always exceed whatever the state
Correct.
level is,
Yeah.
Correct.
regardless.
Yeah, so, but there are a lot of small, very small entities that are 1 and 2 seat, that their training basically is, that's your telephone, you answer it when it rings, that's the radio, you answer it when it talks. If
Whatever
there's,
they
if
tell
there's a
you,
structure
you
fire
tell
ready,
them.
call me, let me know,
Yeah,
I'll check on you at lunchtime.
yeah.
And the chief's out, and they're left there with a pen and paper to figure the rest of it out.
Now, unfortunately, there's a lot of that still goes
Yes.
on today.
Yes.
So you're asking for us to
A
endorse and pass that resolution?
Correct.
And support that.
Motion.
Second.
All right, have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Can we hear what it has to say? Can we hear what the resolution has to say?
There's a copy of it.
Oh, I got a copy?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got that.
You had a copy of it 3 days ago in your email.
Next to the last
Are you kidding me? You seen my email inbox?
You are welcome to read it if somebody's a better reader than I am, but I'll stumble all over my words trying to read it.
I've read it 3 times, I'll find a new word every time, I'm tired of reading it.
Alright, I'm good. Yay.
All those in favor?
Yeah.
Any opposed? All right, so moved. All right,
We will do signed copies of that, and I want to, I'm gonna print a color copy and put it with all of the employees' payroll next time around, so they all get a copy of it.
all right.
That will be a nice, for lack of a better word, feel good for them.
Yeah, and add a little stipend on there, zeros, and include, pay.
Annual maintenance contract.
Southern Software's annual maintenance, same thing that the ones of you that have been here a while have seen before. We did go up a small percentage, but
We skipped the ambulance contract.
not by much. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
We'll
sure
jump
did.
over- Jump over one. Just for opinions and conversation's sake, it is time for us to start working on getting that contract ready to do a renewal on. Given the staffing levels of all the other companies, I'm not anticipating a whole lot of interest from outside of anybody else wanting to bid, but we are required to rebid it every 5 years. My intent, unless anybody has an objection, is to use the ambulance advisory committee as our contract editing and review and publishing committee. I just wanted to make sure that there was no objection to that. Anybody feels like they want to be in on that process, you're absolutely more than welcome to be. But we do need to get that rolling because we need to send that invitation to bid. We need to have so we can publish it in March, review it in May, approve it in June, for it to be active in October.
So you're gonna turn that over to the ambulance board?
That would be my opinion, unless any of y'all just really feel strongly that you wanna be in on that process. They spend
No.
at least twice a month that they play with that contract and they're familiar with it, so I would just say that we use them as our contract review committee and let them come back with a draft contract for us.
My mayor's on the ambulance board, that's his baby.
Oneonta's had a recent issue with, transport of bariatric patients that need some discussion and, with the AAC. If they're gonna handle it, I don't disagree with Neil's assessment there, because I do attend those meetings. But it's been a recent issue in Oneonta.
I know that Blount EMS has got a request in with the commission to take some of the Rescue Act money and to buy a bariatric stretcher,
Right.
house it at the hospital, and then whoever the contracted vendor is has access to that stretcher.
They don't have a bariatric stretcher now?
No.
And the problem with a bariatric stretcher is not its capability to hold the patient up, but the truck. It's the crew's capability to get it in the truck with a patient on it.
I thought that they responded to a bariatric patient in Oneonta, I mean, Hayden several months
Well,
ago,
there-
they had a bariatric
well,
unit.
They have one.
There's a difference.
Probably came from Gardendale.
Well, there's a couple of different classifications, and without getting into the weeds,
Yeah.
responding to an emergency situation, that doesn't apply. It's life safety over rules. Transporting from a facility like the hospital or inter-transfer from nursing home to nursing home,
Yeah.
the rule applies where everything has to be rated. And that includes the crew and everything else. So
Okay.
that's where it lies the problem.
In an emergency situation, we have, from back in my time on an ambulance,
Latitude.
put the stretcher in the back of somebody's pickup truck and slid a very large patient in on the floor. So, you do what you have to in emergency situations, but that's more of a non-emergency thing, so.
But that is correct, and we'll send an email or at least make the AAC committee aware of an addition or amendment.
Send something into that AEC at
Okay.
Blount 911 email, that way it goes to all of us at the same time. That email hits myself and all the committee members.
Okay.
Of that contract, of that invitation to bid on that contract, at the February meeting so that we can publish it, in March. That is my timeline.
All right, that brings us down, that it?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, that brings us down to board member comments.
Go ahead.
Southern Software,
Thanks,
I
Matt.
keep skipping over that one. I apologize.
I went to that one, you skipped
You
the other.
almost got to talk.
Southern Software, it's our CAD, our mobile, does our text messaging. This is their licensing and support fees for calendar year 22. Yeah. He went up just a slight fraction. I think it was like 22 and some change last year, so a very minimal increase is the way inflation goes. So that was a leftover something about here. And then the flip side of that is the same thing for just the MDIS product. So $24,986 for the in-house and $1,040 for the support on the MDIS for the vehicle.
Make a motion, we approve.
All right. Have a motion, second. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? All right. That brings us down to board member comments, I believe.
I got a couple of things.
Put that in your mail file.
First, I would like for us to go back and look again. I know we talked about this in meetings past, but I'd like for us to go back and look again whenever when law enforcement are getting dispatched to medical calls. I know that there are certain addresses that are tagged or tasked or whatever we call them in the system that from years ago or whatever the case may be, because somebody was either violent or there was a reason at the time that they needed law enforcement to that address. We're still getting a lot of calls where fire or EMS is getting dispatched to places and dispatches sending law enforcement with them because of an altered mental status or because it's tagged in the system that there needs to be law enforcement to go there. I'd really like for us to see if we could find a way to look at those, maybe reassess them to find out why law enforcement's being sent to these places. Just listening to the radio one day last week was a couple of calls that my guys were being dispatched to. I keyed up myself and said, hey, why are you sending law enforcement out there? And I called my deputies off because we were slammed and it was going to be an extended period before we got there anyway. So I don't know what that process looks like or how you do that.
My first question would be, who's the one that's gonna drive out there and do the evaluation of that house to see if it still fits?
I'm not necessarily talking about driving out to the address, I'm talking about looking in the CAD or looking in the system and see when was this tag put on this address and why? Was it put on this address because 20 years ago somebody got upset with?
None of them are older than 2018, because that's when we went live with this CAD.
Okay.
Does it have,
That's 3
does
years
it have the
ago.
ability to vet itself though? I can understand, okay.
No, but at least none of them are older than 2018.
So, but when dispatch receives a call at that address, they can go back and look at the history. Oh, I mean.
But there are a lot of them that we have flagged, is the terminology that the fire service uses
Yeah.
to make that request for any future calls.
Yeah, Hayes Road, swimming hole out there, that's generally, you've got a bunch of drunks out there or something going on.
So there are a lot of addresses, that have those flags, to pop up to request law enforcement.
Well, there's some legitimate concerns. I get it. I'm not talking about legitimate reasons. I'm talking about lift assist and, altered mental status that is a huge umbrella for altered mental status. Okay. It could be that somebody is, maybe somebody has dementia, or maybe somebody is literally crazy enough to hurt a first responder. But so what I'm saying is there's a big umbrella under altered mental status,
Yeah.
and just because, and no offense, because I love our firefighters, but just because a firefighter says, hey, I need law enforcement here, that one time they may need them there. There might be that one time that firefighters need police out there, but it may not be every time they go to that address.
I totally agree, but I don't know how we vet from our side as the 911 agency, whose opinion do we dispatch off of?
Yeah, I know what you're saying, I know what you're saying.
I
But
see
then on
both
the other hand-
sides, but, I mean,
On the other
we're
hand,
kinda in the middle of this.
3 police officers got shot in the past week, just going on the welfare check. Just go check on somebody, just somebody called and said, hey, they hadn't seen them, need to check on them.
Yeah.
And they got shot when they showed up. So, I mean, you just never know, I mean, that's usually one of those simple things that, you're doing okay. So, I can see both sides, but.
I don't know the addresses specifically off the top of my head. I know that there was one on Pine Mountain specifically years ago that John had spoke to me about.
9709, yeah, I know exactly which one it is.
And he had a legitimate concern about an address, but it seemed like it was 2 or 3 times a day, or at least every day, there was a call up there that was requiring a deputy to go out there. And when we're not busy, that's okay, but whenever we're slammed and down, and I got 3 deputies covering the whole county, it's hard to pull a guy from, you see what I'm saying?
No, I understand both sides, I just don't know how, this is another one of those, we're kinda in the middle, is in our one entity of, we gotta figure out how to get both sides in agreement on yay or nay. So
Well, there
maybe-
needs to be some serious discussion on that. It don't have to be today, but there needs to be some serious discussion, some looking
Maybe the
into it.
follow-up is when they want an address flagged, we email. And say, do you agree with this?
No, I'm good with that, but maybe on an interim basis, it would be better to make sure that the dispatchers go into the call history at those addresses and make sure that, and see if it's something that's current.
Well, that's what I was fixing to say, at the time, I feel like at the time of the call, depending on what the nature of the call is versus just because it's been on there, you know, if they're, I mean,
Suicidal patient, yeah,
Yeah.
we need to go.
Right.
I agree.
You know,
Well, the verbiage that gets passed back to us from the fire and EMS community is, put a flag on that address for any time we're sent back out here.
I feel like,
I don't agree with
that, they don't get to make that call, it needs to be based on a certain situation.
Yeah.
I
They
mean,
may have said something ugly to them and it made them.
right,
Yeah.
and that is, James, that is absolutely one of the reasons
Yeah.
that some addresses have been flagged, is I got cussed out by somebody by just trying to give them medical attention.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I get that, I mean, you don't want to, you're there, firefighters are there to save life and help people.
Right.
So follow me. Your motion was that you're asking Neil to write a policy for FMPs to be put into the CAD system.
yes.
Sure, yeah.
That's
So
what your
moved.
motion was?
So moved.
Whatever that stands for.
Fire medical,
I second.
the fire medical premise fields in CAD.
Motion,
I will have that draft for you next meeting,
Okay.
motion is second.
because I completely agree that that's something we need to do.
Okay.
Do we need to vote on that?
No,
Okay.
so we'll vote to approve the policy once I get it to you.
I appreciate it. Second thing I have is that I got blessed out by some folks from Locust Fork. We assisted Jefferson County, they got into a chase all over
That's
Jefferson
right.
County. Yeah, it came into Blount County. As it came into Blount County, apparently it got into, school traffic. And, when I called you about it, you said you had heard somebody say the buses have been stopped. Well, that was not the case. Buses were already out and buses had to get off the road to keep from getting head on. Now, obviously, if buses are already let out before they get into that area, I know we can't stop that. But I would like to see us maybe put into a policy that when there is a law enforcement emergency, whether it be a police chase, whether it be a shooting, whether it be some kind of law enforcement emergency that is near or nearing a school zone, that no matter what time of day it is, we notify that school area or school system to let them know, hey, there is a police chase that's on Highway 79 South, but it might be headed your direction. To give the school administrators a heads up of, there could be a potential threat coming your area.
And we try to do that, and I think once we heard somebody say something about school buses, the thought was that, well, that means the school knows it,
Yeah.
so.
I don't know, I didn't hear the radio traffic. I was in the courthouse and courtroom. I came outside, to get in my truck and heard the tail end of it.
I heard all of it. I think Pat Thomas is the one that said something about the school buses.
Well, Pat Thomas didn't even wear Locust Fork, so why would he?
No, but Pat Thomas and one of his officers and me had the roundabout blocked on all sides to keep.
So was he talking about
people
Cleveland
going
School
down.
being notified?
He was talking about the county school because
I
the
thought
buses.
I heard Jason say something about the buses.
I thought it was Pat, but it could have been,
Anyway, yes.
Well, see, there-
But I mean,
therein lies
Pittsburgh
the-
did a good job.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But therein lies the issue of somebody keys up and says buses are stopped. How do we know for a fact? So maybe we need to just go ahead and take the extra step, call the school and say, this is what's happening, this is what's going on.
Do they have communication with the bus drivers,
Yes,
Southern Link? Or
they
they-
did have Southern Link, I don't know if they still
Once
have
they're
it.
notified, they already have that the school has a system in place where they go into lockdown.
Yeah, the school does, but the buses.
Yeah, we're talking about the buses.
Even the buses, they're still there on campus.
But what I think James is saying is that because the buses, once they've already
Yeah,
been
they were
released.
Yeah,
local, they
you're right.
were already moving.
Charles, you mind? Excuse me.
Brandon's
Because
gonna
I gotta
slip out
step
another
out.
meeting, so swap chair positions here.
Thank y'all.
Yes, sir.
So I guess really what I'm saying is that we need some way of being able to notify the schools whenever there is a law enforcement emergency, or situation that's happening. Even if it's, say, 1 o'clock and we've got a chase that's going on, you know, in Cleveland and it's 160 westbound, you
I
know.
have absolutely no disagreement with that, with the caveat of a request. Task Russ with getting with me to how we
Yeah,
best do that.
okay.
I'm gonna recommend that the first call is to the school board, the county school board, to coordinate how that would be done better inside their system.
It's-
I mean, we can do,
I mean,
y'all
it
can do.
It could be just as simple as notifying the school.
That's what I'm saying. I
They'll do
think
that with their
To
phone.
begin with, me and Russ and Chris Lakey need to just go to lunch one day and talk through it.
I like it, I like it.
Tag Russ with that and we'll work
I
on it.
think they'll, like I said, I think they already have that in place with the whole, even the bus drivers, even if they're out on, if it's
Yeah.
communicated to them, if they notify.
Yeah, I think they've got their side pretty well. We just gotta figure out how we get from here to there and.
How we can input in ourselves into their system, yeah.
I know I got blessed out because school buses had to get off the road.
Well, there was a lot of,
So-
there was a lot of
That was the worst
rumors, there
possible
was a lot of
time.
rumors that went out on the Devil's
Yeah.
Facebook page, so, about what happened, and most of it was not true.
Really? Most of the stuff put on social media wasn't
Most of it was
true?
not true. The
Yeah.
factual part was there was a chase.
Oh, I got blew up yesterday because there was a mishit on, we got a capital murder suspect that we moved from
I
Mullen
saw
County to
that.
Coleman County.
I saw,
And then in the transfer, it said release to street. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
yeah.
So I had to play firefighter yesterday. But anyway, that's all I have. I just wanted to address those things because, obviously it is a concern to some folks in the community.
Me and Russ and Chris Lakey can get together and figure out what our best, we make that work.
That's all I got.
I got a couple of things, but I'm gonna talk to Neil